It's like one of those stories that sounds like it's too big or too crazy to believe.
Literally, it sounds made up, right? It sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. It sounds made up, but I mean, it's I've been fighting Alberta Health Services for 8 years, now, and what's fascinating is that, and I mean, I can talk hours and hours about Alberta Health Services and the corruption and crimes and so on, but what's fascinating is that they're still continuing to try to destroy me. Through Jason Kenney's government, they were trying to destroy me and my family. And now, even with Danielle Smith in power, they are continuing to come after, threaten my family. I was just threatened by AHS lawyers a couple of weeks ago again. They've been threatening me really on a regular basis, threatening me at my home. But again, it is what it is. I don't tend to focus too much on it, because then the pandemic hit, and then everyone got a taste of corruption in our healthcare system here in Alberta, and in ways that Albertans never anticipated, right? We never anticipated that we'd be subjected to lockdowns and masking and all the stupidities, the 6 feet apart and 2 weeks to flatten the curve and on all that ridiculousness, not to mention, the snake bites and snake bite mandates and all of that, right? And so the persecution of Christian pastors, for example, Alberta, one of the regions on earth that had the most persecution of Christians and Christian pastors in the world. And that happened during the pandemic as well, under Jason Kenney's watch. So, and
I find that really ironic. I'm also from Toronto, by the way, so we share a little bit of history there, and came out to Alberta in late 2021. And I also came out to college in Edmonton. I came out to Bible college, actually. And I didn't really notice how Christian Alberta was at the time, because I was in Bible college and I just thought we were going to churches. It made sense for me. But when I moved back out here in 2021, I noticed that Alberta is large. There's like a massive percentage of Alberta that are, I guess you'd say, traditional Christians. And so it seems to be large throughout the province. So I found it very odd that, there's going to be pastors that are going to be put in jail there from our government. And I don't know if you caught recently, the premier at the time, Jason Kenney, was going to be speaking. It was a couple of weeks ago at some forum against religious persecution, which I thought was real rich.
it was honestly, it was the most ironic thing, because, and I can explain the Christian persecution fairly easily, because Jason Kenney, what he did was, now he came on a mandate. He was elected with a mandate, a strong conservative mandate, a landslide. He was elected with a landslide to clean up corruption at Alberta Health Services. And he said he would do it. And, he did a big AHS review, and it cost $2 million. There was that Ernst & Young review of AHS, which found that out of 3,132 Alberta Health Services managers, about 2/3 of them are completely useless. You could get rid of them and absolutely nothing would change. So hundreds of millions of dollars being wasted on a gigantic bureaucracy, the largest in Canada. AHS is the largest health provider in Canada, with 105,000 healthcare employees. And so Jason Kenney was elected on a mandate with one of the things, which was to clean up Alberta Health Services. And what he did instead was he rolled over and he allowed our entire healthcare system, Alberta Health Services, the college, the unions, of course, to be run by far leftist extremist bureaucrats. And we know that leftists are also globalists. And so he left these people in charge, and I can name them for you. Alberta Health Services CEO, Dr. Verna Yu, was a leftist installed by Rachel Notley in 2015. He let her run the entire pandemic response up until April of 2022. She's the one who brought the snakebite mandates to Alberta and forced it on all 105,000 healthcare workers. We lost thousands of nurses, doctors, all kinds of healthcare workers who basically had to quit medicine because they didn't want to take the venom, right? And, you had Dr. Dina Hinshaw, for example, public health chief, again, hired by Rachel Notley, who ran the pandemic response, lied about, basically deleted vaccine injury data from the Alberta government website. She should be in prison. She should be arrested. And yet, she was given a $230,000 bonus by Jason Kenney for fabricating and altering data, which was showing that the were getting destroyed. Their immune systems were being completely destroyed. And, she basically was given a bribe, a bonus of $230,000. And then when things got really hot, she was shipped over to British Columbia to be the deputy chief, public health chief for Bonnie Henry, and presumably was, committing crimes there related to the pandemic. And these are the kinds of people that Jason Kenney left in charge. They were all leftists. The chief medical officer of health, Dr. Francois Bélanger, again, installed by Rachel Notley in 2015. He was a leftist. He was the head doctor in Alberta that even Dina Hinshaw answered to. Dr. Mark Joffe, our current public health chief, got his start as an Alberta Health Services executive in 2016 under Rachel Notley's government. Our entire healthcare system is run by leftists and has been since 2015. And what Rachel Notley did, which was clever, was she did a purge. She did an ideological purge of Alberta Health Services and the college. And she made sure that everyone was on board with her and Justin Trudeau. Whoever wasn't on board was fired immediately. And those people have been running our healthcare system ever since. And Jason Kenney left them in place. Daniel Smith has fired one or two of these officials. But as far as the entire leadership apparatus, it's still in place.
That's one of the things I noticed. I did when I first came here. I did the campaign photography for one of the politicians running for the leadership of the UCP. And one of the things I noticed was it doesn't really matter. Well, I can't say it doesn't matter entirely, but you're not affecting the change you think you are by electing a new government, because that under level, those appointees and the bureaucrats and all across the board, they're the ones that are the real gatekeepers. And it's really hard for an elected government to accomplish anything without the support of those bureaucrats. So yeah, you said that a lot of these people were hired on by Rachel Notley and the NDP, and they stayed on under the UCP, but the UCP, Jason Kenney is another thing entirely, but even the ones that want to do some good in the UCP would find it really hard without this bureaucrat. So, maybe they should have done what Rachel Notley did and fire the ones that aren't on page.
Exactly. And that's the thing is Rachel Notley did an ideological purge. You had HSCO, Vicky Kaminsky, conservative. She fired her. She basically got rid of her. At first, they pressured her. And I remember the pressure was that she was supposed to have meetings with the NDP officials like Sarah Hoffman, and there was supposed to be no paper record of what kind of contracts were being awarded. Now, AHS gets like $20 billion every year. And so she was eventually pushed out there, and they were demanding that she keep no documentation of what they discussed and what kind of, contracts they were awarding and so on. So she got pushed out. Dr. David Mador, a conservative who wanted several $1 billion to renovate hospitals in Edmonton, like the Royal Alex Hospital and the Misericordia Hospital, that were crumbling. I mean, these are hospitals that haven't had, updates since the 70s or 80s. In really bad shape, needed several $1 billion, and NDP said, absolutely not. We have our own construction mafia. We want to give them a $2 billion deal to build a brand new hospital in South Edmonton. And so they got rid of him. He was a top vice president, AHS vice president. They got rid of him like that, right? Dr. Paul Grundy, head of AHS Cancer Control. They fired him. They didn't even tell him they were firing him. He found out on the news when he heard that he was fired by Rachel Notley. It was a huge scandal, by the way. And why did they do it? Because NDP wanted to give the new $1.6 billion Calgary Cancer Center, again, to their favorite construction mafia, PCL Construction. And he stood in the way, so they got rid of him immediately. So she purged people immediately. And then the conservatives who were corrupt, who, like Dr. Francois Bélanger, Dr. Verna Yu, they were originally conservatives, but they were completely corrupt bureaucrats. They said, absolutely, we're going to sign on to this leftist agenda that you're going to push through in Alberta. And so that's what she did. She did an ideological purge, converted those conservatives who, said, yes, we're going to be leftists now, and gave them 5-year contracts with a 1-year termination clause if they were ever fired. See, that's another thing that Albertans don't know about, is that all of these top healthcare executives, they had beautiful contracts. They didn't just make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. They had termination clauses where if they were terminated for any reason, they'd have to get another year of salary at least. So another, $500,000, $700,000. So, I could see Jason Kenney. Yes, it might have cost him maybe several $100 million to get rid of the complete, corrupt mafia, bureaucratic mafia that was running the healthcare system. and he didn't have the guts to do it. And so they eventually destroyed his political career as a result.